not a hazard to the community or the neighbors in that area.
Right.
I don't have no problem with it, but I just like to make sure that they understand that.
Right.
Well-
The person who is wanting to lease the building has agreed to do all maintenance and upkeep of the building. The city will not be required to do any maintenance whatsoever or do any repairs. That's the reason we put the rent amount at $308 per month. That's also what was the last tenant was paying, was $308 per month. There's no fence around the front of the building, but the back of the building there is a fence.
Okay, so most of the vehicles and the things he'll be working on will be in the back of the
Right,
building.
right. And there's a bay door in the back, so the vehicles will be actually inside the building, most of them.
I'm going to support it, but could you please let him know the importance of not packing up a lot of vehicles and stuff in the frontage?
Yes.
To please respect the neighbors, there.
Yes.
Because, in that business, I know my dad used to have one too. They get so excited working, they forget about their neighbors.
Right.
And it can be ugly sight for someone in their neighborhood.
We
So
can
if he
put
could
some
just
sort-
contain it to the back, then I would be a happy camper.
We'll put some sort of stipulation in the actual lease,
Okay.
stating for him to keep the premises clean at all
Okay.
times.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And we have Counselor Davis.
Just out of curiosity, the 308 amount, you just stated that in the past, the previous leasee was paying 308. How do you determine that amount, and how do you determine it from the past and then going forward? How do you determine that 308 number?
Well, most of the time, it goes by whatever the standard rent amount is for commercial property, which is approximately $12 per square foot. This building in particular, though, really needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of cleaning up. It needs a lot of maintenance. And since the city is not going to be putting any money into the actual building to get it to where it needs to be, the business owner has agreed to do that. So that's the reason we were trying to keep it at a lower amount, than so that he would have the extra money to be able to put that into the building for repairs.
Well, and let me just say, and I know Councilor Woodson, because that's over in her area, there's a lot of work that needs to be done on Brennan Road, period. And none of very few properties look like what I would want them to look like. And so we've got a lot of work. In fact, the city has acquired some property back recent years on Brennan Road when we bought the old mobile home park because of the condition of that mobile home park. In fact, we own 17 acres right as you approach Casita Road if you're coming around Brennan Road. So this property is our property. It's not in the best of condition. There are a lot of other properties like that, and we've got to make a conscious effort to continue to work clean up Brennan Road. So we're getting the value for, I believe, in rent for what we have.
All right, and now we have Counselor Huff.
Just wanted to piggyback with Councilor Woodson that you are having them to put the cars up at the end of the day.
Okay.
And it's a nice, clean property at the end of every day, and especially all weekend.
Yeah, we will definitely put that in the lease.
All right, thank you.
All right. Okay. So it has been called, and discussion is concluded. It has been queued to vote. Please record your vote electronically. We have one more. If you could just push one more time. There we go. Great. Thank you. All right.
Next, I've got a property purchase at 1030 Fort Benning Road. We're requesting to execute.
Got a motion and second for approval for the property purchase at 1030 Fort Benning Road. And there's Counselor Thomas with discussion.
Mayor, I would like if the city manager would to go on and tell us a little bit more about this property and this particular transaction, if you would, please.
Okay.
Let me say that the city currently owns 40 plus or minus acres along Fort Benning Road and Old Casita Road, and it's in the area behind or near the old Ply Mart, for those, just to give you a reference point. And so we own that 40 acres. As you know, the school district is interested in the land swap that we've been talking to them about, and we would get certain acreage from them that we are able to use for our spiderweb project. When we do the land swap, the party or entity with a difference would pay in cash the difference. And in our 40 acres, in the middle of it, there were 2 parcels of property that we had been working on for some time, and this is one of those properties that is within that 40 acres. And we couldn't work the sale or deal, and now we have a chance to purchase that property with enterprise zone funds at the fair market value. And so that will add to our acreage that we will have as we move forward to deal with the land swap with the school district. And so it's valued at $105. We'll pay $105 out of enterprise zone funds. And then we will, once we deal with the school district for what we need that they own, the difference, will settle the difference. But this would go along with that property that the school district has been interested in. And so, and you can see the boundaries there of our property. And so we would be able to do a swap with them and settle the difference, and we would be able to give them a almost contiguous, well, it'd be property that would not have other properties in between what we're trying to do, as you can see there.
All right. We have Counselor Allen.
Well, I wanted to, I'm trying to get the logistics down. You said this would help us move to expand our, I guess, the footprint of the spider web.
Yes.
How is it adjacent to, where is it adjacent to the
This,
185?
you know, what I'm showing you has nothing to do with the spider web. I was just making the point that that's the property that we're using in the land swap that we anticipate we'll move forward with the school district. And we were trying to go ahead and assemble that piece of property that we had an opportunity to purchase from enterprise zone funds.
Okay.
And the property that at the spider web, of course, is, you know, where the railroad track is down Martin Luther King, Buena Vista, Ilges. You know, they've got the Brewer, the property over by Brewer, and they've got the Tillinghurst, and I don't think it's a secret that, you know, when we do our project, we will need to either purchase or do land swaps.
Okay.
As we move forward.
All right. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. And that concludes discussion, and so we'll move to the vote at this time, and it has been queued. Please record your votes electronically. All right, and it passes.
Next, I've got it's Curve's donation of exercise equipment to Parks and Recreation Department. They are no longer in business. It's Curve's in Catala, Georgia, and they are willing to donate their equipment to Parks and Rec.
Got a motion and second for approval. Seeing that there's no discussion, please record your vote electronically. And it passes.
Next, we've got a Muskogee County Emergency Sheltering Agreement with GEMA and then subsequently FEMA. And it's renewed annually to ensure equipment and support to Columbus from the state of Georgia in the event of emergencies requiring mass sheltering of persons from outside of Muskogee County.
All right, we've got a motion for approval. Is there a second? We have a second for approval. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Please record your votes electronically. We need one more. I just need to press it one more time just to be sure. Who is it that we're? Yeah, Council Woodson. Okay, good. And it's there. That's all right. That's all right. Sometimes it gets sensitive. Okay.
I've got two purchases. One is the Argus software license and maintenance. It's $40,649.
We have a motion and second to approve items A and B. Are there any discussion related to these items? Seeing that there's none, we'll cue both items for a vote. There we go. It passes.
I've got a few short updates, and we've already dealt with the Westville project update. I'm going to call on Finance Deputy City Manager of Finance Planning, Pam Hodge, to talk about the Claflin building.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Pam, Councilor Davis would like to say something before you get into your presentation.
Excuse me a minute, Ms. Hodge, but to finish up on City Manager's agenda, before we go into the presentations, I just would like to ask you, Mr. City Manager, could we expedite just some research and look into ways to fix a traffic matter that's occurring over off of Fortson Road and Williams Road right there at that intersection? I know that we've been looking at that, but it's getting worse. And, you know, if we don't start looking at a way to try to address it, I know we've talked about it from a preliminary standpoint, but, you know, if you want to get a bird's eye view of it, just go over there about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and you'll understand what I'm saying. But would you put that on a priority list to try to look at a way to solve that problem over there?
Let me put that on a list and take a look at it and let you know what a timeline would be for dealing with the matter. So I will either follow up with you directly or have staff, our Deputy City Manager, to follow up with you.
That'd be fine. Thank you, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you. Pam?
We came to council in February with an RFP to award an RFP for the Claflin renovations. And what we want to do today is just give you an update, what's happened over the last 6 months or so. Reverend Jesse and his group is here, the Friends of Claflin, and for them to also provide you with an update on kind of what's going on. So at this time, Laura McCool, our Community Reinvestment Manager, will provide an update from the city and also give the Friends of Claflin an opportunity just to let you know what they've been working on for that facility.
Good morning again. On February 24th, 2015, Council approved entering into a lease agreement with the Friends of Historic Claflin for the restoration of Claflin School.
Laura, if you could just speak up a bit. We're having
Sure.
trouble hearing you.
Sorry about that. What the lease agreement was supposed to be for was for 18 months, and it was supposed to be to complete Phase 2 and 3 of the restoration schedule, and then if they were able to do that, it would be extended for another 3 to 5 years to complete Phase 4, 5, and 6. The Friends of Claflin are to secure the building and maintain the landscaping. So Phase 1 of the lease agreement was to develop an RFP, develop a sustainability plan, submit application to Historic Register, structure a nonprofit, and establish a board. And they were also supposed to complete an RFP process, incorporate and apply for a 501c3, and do a kickoff public relations campaign. Phase 2 was to identify and apply for restoration funds, conduct a fundraising campaign. Phase 3 was stabilization and demolition, and to continue fundraising. Phase 4 was to actually restore the facility. Phase 5 was to prepare the facility for tenants and for occupation. Phase 6 was to prepare for the grand opening. To date, April 13, 2015, there was notification that Claflin School is now listed in the Georgia Register of Historic Places. On June 13, 2015, the one-year meeting was held for the restoration and preservation of Claflin. June 20, 2015, they held a Summer Gospel Explosion fundraiser event. They submitted their application to the IRS to obtain their 501c3 status, but they're still awaiting that designation. And they're working with an architectural firm, which is 2WR plus partners, and they're working on the restoration updates. And the lease still has not been entered into with Claflin because part of the lease requires them to secure liability insurance on the building and submit preliminary plans for renovation, which they have not been able to do so far. Some of their marketing campaigns, they have a website, Facebook page, Instagram flyers, and they also have a YouTube video located at that link. And are there any questions?
Well,
Councilor Thomas?
Tell me exactly what the, let me see, where are we? The fact that the school is now listed on the Georgia Register of Historical Places, what does that do to the property?
First off, it will require where you have special stipulations that have to be done, like in the design, to keep it looking historic. Also, it could make them eligible for more grants and stuff if it's listed in the list.
I know that I have a general bit of knowledge, okay? I've never worked with a piece of property that's on the historical register, either the Georgia or the national, but I do know that there are, that you can't tear down some buildings.
Right.
I know, for example, the building at 2nd Avenue and 11th Street, the old YMCA, you can't tear that down.
Right.
Does that also apply here
Yes.
to this?
Yes, they will not be able to tear it down most likely, but if there ever became a reason to tear it down, they would have to go through a whole process of doing archival photo documentation and all that kind of stuff just to make sure that they're able to have that history put in a library or something somewhere so somebody could look it up at a later date. But for the most part, they probably would not be able to tear it down.
well, and Counselor, and to you, Ms. McCool, I don't know that, I think one of the buildings is perhaps, is historic.
Right.
And maybe some addition that came after the building burned years ago may not be historic. So I believe there's only one building on the property that's historic. I don't know if you can answer that, but certainly we can. I know we've documented that, and we can get that back to you, but not all of the property, the buildings on the property are historic.
And I do, again, have some general knowledge that by being on the register, renovations and some of those kinds of things can be much more expensive.
Yes.
In order to maintain and keep the historical look and preservation of that. So,
Yeah, the plans, when they get finished with them, have to get approval from the Georgia Historic Preservation Division to make sure that it will maintain that historic look after the renovations are done.
thank you.
And so,
Go ahead. We have other counselors.
well,
in queue.
I'll just yield.
Okay. Counselor Davis.
I wanted to go to page 1 on the update that you're giving us, and it says that the Friends of Claflin were to stabilize, secure the build, and maintain landscape. Has that all been handled in an appropriate manner?
Sir, can you repeat that?
On page 1, down at the bottom, you have a little highlight here that says Friends of Claflin.
Oh.
Word stabilize, secure the building, and maintain landscape. Has that all been handled in an appropriate manner?
They have started actually going into the building to be able to look at how to stabilize it, but we haven't yet entered into a lease agreement with them. The reason being is part of the lease requires that they have liability insurance, and it also requires that they be able to, I'm trying to remember what that was. And I know that Reverend Jesse had stated that they've been trying to obtain liability insurance, but the cost is so high that at this time they're not able to afford it.
Well, and that was actually my second question on page 4, where you have it talks about the lease is pending to secure liability insurance, and I guess along with plans. Tell us a little bit about that, where you just kind of stated it, but just talking more general about where we're at with that aspect of it.
Yeah, when we started going into actually doing the lease, part of what was put into the lease by our city attorney and also by Jacob Beal was to require them to be liable in case anybody gets hurt or anything while they're actually working on the building, so that the city's not liable for that. And when they've been out searching for policies, they're stating that it could be up to $10,000, and they don't have that kind of money right now to be able to pay a $10,000 premium. So that's the reason that we were waiting for them to be able to show us proof that they were able to obtain that liability insurance before we were able to do the actual lease. And then we also want the city to be able to, since the city still owns the building, we want to make sure that the city is able to look at what they're going to actually do to the building prior to them being able to just go in there and do whatever they want. So part of what we were requiring was that they had provided us with a set of like preliminary plans that kind of would just show an overview of what they're going to actually do, what kind of restoration, the work they're going to do, and have that as attached to the lease so that we can hold them to doing what the city had approved for them to do.
Thank you.
All right. That's all.
And so, Madam Mayor and Council, I know that the question that's in your minds would be, is the clock running on this? Because we were very specific in the agenda report and the agreement that we entered. And so there was the various phases. But the answer to that question is yes. The clock is running, and because we are working the agreement that we presented to you based on the phases we presented to you that you approved. And when we get to that point that the time is near or has run out, then we would be coming back to you if they are not on track to proceed with a recommended option. And so we will constantly provide you with updates along the course of the way so that we can answer any questions that you have along the course of the way. But the timeline that we provided to you, the various phases that we presented to you that you approved to allow us to move forward with Friends of Claflin, we don't have a choice but to hold them to it. And so, and that's what it will be until and unless they come to you and request an extension or something different. We're going to work the timeline. So we wanted you to be aware of that, and we're going to provide progress reports along the course of the way so that there is no confusion or misunderstanding about where we are in that process. So we'll be happy to answer any other questions you have, but that's what we wanted to share with you today.
Councilor Woodson.
Yes, City Manager, or I don't know if you can answer it, or maybe Reverend Jesse or somebody from his committee. Where are they with the nonprofit application? Because that's a big, important part of it. Because once they have their nonprofit, they're able to raise money to continue where they're going. nonprofits usually takes a little while. Sometimes you have to, if you want to accomplish something, you have to partner with another nonprofit until yours is completed, because it could take a time frame. So I'm wondering where we are, because looking at this, I think that's the issue they're really running into, is not having a nonprofit. People are more tendency to be a part of a project once they know they can get a tax donation for their funds that they give to an organization. So I was just curious, where are we on that nonprofit?
And maybe Mr. Jesse can talk about that.
Good morning. We're glad to be here this morning, and we thank God for us being to get to this point. And I want to present some of our board members. Our president is Colonel Retired John House. We have our secretary, Ms. Teresa Hart Williams, our assistant treasurer, Larry Ware. We have our sustainability committee chair, Ms. Janelle Menifee, and Ms. Natasha David Walker, who is our fundraiser and who is our grant writer. Let me just clarify a couple of things that were said that are just not quite accurate. We have been waiting for a lease agreement from the city since February, and we received the first draft of it last month. We had not received a draft of the lease agreement until a few weeks ago. And we took the time to review that lease agreement, and there are a couple of items in there that we need to get clarified. We have been, and of course, as Ms. McCool said, one of the provisions, two of the provisions, and we had a meeting with Assistant City Manager and Attorney, where we were being required to have the specification for restoration, which could be a $500,000 price tag for that. But in that meeting, we had representatives from 2WR, our architectural firm, who had worked with the attorney who's representing the lease at that time, and they sort of worked out an agreement where we would not be required to have that high expense thing in order to do a lease agreement. The other item is for the insurance. We are prepared to get insurance when we have the estimates. We have one estimate. We are waiting for two other estimates for $1 million insurance on the Claflin School building. And I'm sure that when we get all of the questionable items in the lease agreement worked out, we understand we've got to have insurance on the building. So, and we've talked with individuals in this community who can help us with that. So we have been very careful not to ask for monies for Claflin until we had a clear understanding of the agreement that we would have with the city. And when we first
Reverend
came...
Jesse, I hate to interrupt you, but I want to see if you can answer my question before you continue.
Okay.
Where are you with the nonprofit? Because you can do
Okay.
agreements, leases, you can do everything you want, but if your nonprofit isn't approved and you can't raise money, it defeats everything. So I'm really concerned, where is your nonprofit?
Okay, we applied for our nonprofit status in May,
Okay.
and we already have received from the IRS a timetable, and they have said that within 6 months
Okay.
we will be given our status, given a status in one or two categories. So
Okay.
that's where we are.
And my next question is, have you considered, until, your nonprofit arrives, have you considered partnering up with another nonprofit that it's in their bylaws, similar to what you're trying to do, so that it will assist you in raising the money a little bit sooner?
Well, we could do that.
Okay.
I don't think it's necessary for us to do. As soon as we get an agreement with the city, until we get a formal agreement, lease agreement with the city, there's just a lot of things that we cannot do. We can't even secure the building until we have a lease agreement. And like I said, We just received the first draft of a lease agreement last month, in August. So, and let me just say that the city had offered us a rights of entry agreement, but that was just unnecessary. We understand we got to get insurance. No problem. Once we have an agreement that we can set a time for a signing of the lease, we will have insurance on the building. So, I mean, and that's what has been going on. We have prepared a PR campaign. We've been working on our sustainability plan, our construction committee plan. 2WR has been working with us. We will have a local business that has agreed to do the testing on the building. We got 2 different testings that need to be done. And one of the testing, they have agreed to do it pro bono. But until we get a lease agreement with the city, we cannot move forward. And that's really the holdup right now.
Mr. City Manager, if you want to respond, then we do have councilors in queue.
Well, Madam Mayor, I'd like for Deputy City Manager Hodge to speak to the lease agreement and maybe why we don't have a lease agreement signed at this point.
Absolutely. We have been working with Reverend Jesse and his group. Originally, we started out with the lease agreement, and then we have now offered to do just a right of entry to allow them to go into the building without having to sign a hold harmless every time and come and pick up keys so that they're able to go into the building. What we are requiring is that they have insurance. Until they can produce the insurance, we don't feel that it's a good idea to move forward with a right of entry or a lease agreement. So that's kind of where we've been. We've had numerous meetings. I know Laura has met with Reverend Jesse and talked to him numerous times over the last several months. So the insurance is really what we're waiting on in order to either execute the right of entry and to execute the lease agreement. We would need preliminary plans so that we're aware of what's going to go on in the building as well as the insurance. So this has been going on for several months.
Okay, so the lease agreement is ready.
The lease agreement is ready. They've just now gotten back to us that there were 2 points that they wanted clarification on. So that's been a recent.
And Mr. Jesse is indicating the lease was just offered to them when?
I'd have to go back and look, but I know we've been in discussions for months with the group.
We can clear that up right now. Last month, in August, we received the first draft of a lease agreement. And the rights of entry, which
We've issued the right of entry agreement months ago.
Well, in June, but we don't need a rights of entry agreement. What we need is to get straight. And let me tell you what the problem as far as the lease.
Let me just say this so that we don't have the back and forth.
Okay.
Whatever the staff, if we say we need a rights of entry, that's what we need. And if we need insurance, that's what we got to have. And so, we're going to tell you what we need,
right,
and then we would expect you to respond with what we requested in terms of what we need, because that's what we got to have.
But we have no problem with that.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll make sure
Okay.
that after this meeting, that we respond to you with everything we need, and with maybe you can provide us with a timeline that you can respond back to us with that.
Absolutely. And that's, we've been waiting to get an agreement that we could abide by that was in line with the city council's original agreement statement. And that's the only thing. There were some things in there that were not in line with that.
Okay.
And we're going to get those straight. And like I said, as soon as we get,
Yeah.
as soon as we get those items straight, we have persons who will be helping us to go on and move forward with the insurance. We only have one insurance estimate. We have 2 that should be in hopefully this week, and so we've been working on that.
Okay. Well, and I want you to be clear. Our goal is to make sure this is successful.
Right.
So we don't want to get in the way. We want to make sure
We appreciate that, sir.
that it's successful. So I'll make sure they get with you.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have Counselor Huff.
Yes, Reverend Jesse, thank you for being here. Let me ask the Mr. City Manager first. Has there been any discussion as far as trying to assist them on where they can apply for historical grants and things to help them out once we get past this stage?
I don't know if he's had conversation with staff, but certainly I'll have Laura McCool to look for grants and assist them in any way that we can with getting grants. Because again, our goal is for this to be successful.
Okay. Reverend Jesse, have you all started at that point, or you hadn't gotten that far yet?
We've identified several grants that are available, and we will be applying for them. The 501c3 item we've taken care of, done what we need to do, and there are a number of grants that we have identified that we will be applying for.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's hear from Counselor Thomas, and then there's been a sidebar question regarding whether there's a resolution about all this process.
I'm good, Mayor.
Okay. And so that resolution, I guess, sets out some of these requirements and things.
Yes. I don't have it with me. I don't know if staff, if you've got a copy, but we brought you a resolution. We brought you an agenda report. We did, I believe, a PowerPoint presentation on it that laid out this process and everything that we were going to do, the timeline. We were going to give them 18 months for Phase 1, for example, and what they had to do within that Phase 1 period, and then the Phase 2 and so forth, and some of you may remember that. But I don't have a copy of that with me today, but we did lay all that out, and we will email that to you today so that you'll have it.
Well, it sounds like, first of all, we appreciate the update, and I can hear there's a lot of concern. We want, I think as the city manager said, we want to make sure this is successful, and we want to make sure the schedule is followed. And so it sounds like the issue related to getting your nonprofit is essential to the fundraising for the money that you need to get the liability insurance, which is essential to us being able to execute the lease and secure the building and stabilize it. So there's sort of a domino effect here that we really need, I guess, to urge you to move forward with the nonprofit status. You can call and ask, what is the status? We have these other issues that are pending. Can we be expedited? And unfortunately, like many things that work with a bureaucracy, the squeaky wheel does tend to get the grease. So I would commend that to you to actually make calls and let them know that this is a time-sensitive issue for a lot of reasons. Because in the meantime, it is there, I presume secured in some fashion, but probably not in the fashion you would wish it to be secured in if you were going to imminently pursue some sort of renovation of it. So anyway, with that, it's been, I think, a positive update, but it does sound like we need to have you all move forward as quickly as possible with the nonprofit status so that these other things can take place.
Well, as far as we're concerned, our nonprofit status, we can start working as if we have that. Again, we'll get with your staff about the agreement, and then we'll move forward from that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no other questions on that, we'll move forward, and we've got a drop-up date. I'm going to call on our HR Director, Rita Hollowell, and that's the drop deferred retirement option plan update.
Good morning. We came to you about a month ago and talked to you about the deferred option plan, deferred retirement option plan. that the city implemented in 2012 as a part of pension reform. We had some options for you to consider, and I just want to refresh your memory on that from the August 11th meeting. We talked to you about the drop plan being cost neutral. It's a cost neutral benefit of the pension plan, and eligible employees may participate in the drop without terminating their employment for up to 3 years. The age and service requirement for the drop is age 58 and 30 years of service, or age 55 with 35 years of service. As it relates to the drop and pay increases, of course, City Council approves all COLAs, cost of living adjustments. And since 2011, you have approved a 0.5% COLA for active employees, and you've approved a 0.25% COLA increase for retirees. When drop participants retire or active employees decide to enter into the drop, they, for pension purposes, are retired and therefore receive the 0.25% COLA that you grant to retirees. I showed you this example last time, and we've updated it a little bit, and I just wanted to review it with you again real briefly. Basically, this is an example of employees that are active. To your left is showing the 3-year increments here. If you are an active employee and you receive the COLA, the 0.5% COLA for the first year, using someone who makes an annual salary of $60,000, and their retirement benefit is calculated to be $3,000. So on a $60,000 salary, if they are receiving the active COLA, the 0.5% COLA, that's going to increase their salary from $60,000 a year to $60,300. And then, as you see in year 2, it increases their salary from $60,000 to $60,300 to $60,602, and then in year 3 to $60,905. And over a 3-year period, as an active employee, they would receive a total of $905 annually.
Retha, just as a point of clarification, I'm pretty sure in that difference column it should say cumulative.
Cumulative.
3-year cumulative and not annual, just for
Yes, thank you.
people aren't confused.
Absolutely. And then to the right of your screen, if the drop participants receive the 0.25% COLA that you've awarded since 2011, based on their $3,000 pension benefit, in year 1, it increases their salary or their pension amount from $3,000 a month to $3,007.50 for an annual amount of $90 or cumulative amount. And in year 2, you see their benefit goes to $3,015, and in year 3, their benefit goes to $3,023. And over a 3-year period, it's $270. But keep in mind, with the 0.25% to the retirees, that's for the life of the retiree. It's an ongoing benefit. Once you add that 0.25, it's an ongoing. However, to the left of your screen on the active employees, when that employee leaves, of course, they no longer receive the active COLA. And that amount does not affect their pension. Their pension has already been calculated, so that amount, the 0.5% COLA, will not affect that. I also did another example. Right now, we've been able to you've awarded the 0.5% COLAs and the 0.25% COLA, but certainly as the economy continues to get better, we hope that you'll be able to award greater percentages of COLAs, And this is just an example of that. If you were to award a 3% COLA to the active employees and a 1.5% COLA to the retirees. And the example is similar. The amounts are just a lot greater. And that's why it's important, to consider who gets the COLA. And of course, that's your decision as council. And what you have is options that we talked about last time, drop options. The drop participants currently receive the 0.25% as on their pension. That's what they receive now, same as retirees. The drop participants receive that as well. You could consider the drop participants receiving both the 0.5% as an active employee because they're still working for the next 3 years. You can consider giving them the 0.5% COLA and them continuing to receive the 0.25 on their pension. If you decide, whatever you decide, we'd ask that you include that in the annual budget ordinance. And the city council, the city attorney's office, I apologize, has drafted ordinances where either or could be incorporated, in that you could continue to do business as usual, in that you select option number 1, and the drop participants would continue to receive the 0.25 on their pension retirement. Or you could select option 2 and allow those drop participants to receive the 0.5% COLA as an active employee, and they would continue to receive it as a part of their pension as well, the 0.25. For your information, and if you'd like to have it, we've already calculated for those folks who participated in the drop but did not receive the 0.5% as an active employee in 2014 and 2015. We've calculated those amounts for you if you'd like to have those today as well. The total amount for 2014, the total amount is $6,611. For 2015, $8,711, for a total of $15,323.
All right, we have, is that concludes your presentation?
Yes.
We have Counselor Thomas with a discussion.
Retha, would you go back to the slide that showed the 0.5 and the 25? That one. I went back and listened to the presentation that was made to employees at the Trade Center. It was about an hour's presentation talking about the drop plan and active employees. And it was said, not only did I watch it, but I had parts of it transcribed so that I would know exactly what was said. And it was said time and time again by Mr. Chuck Carr, Mr. Carr, that these are two entirely different things, the active employment status and the retirement status, that once you go into the drop plan, your retirement benefit is calculated, but you remain an active employee and nothing changes in your employment status. And I believe that the people who were sitting in that audience and heard that believed that they would be treated in every respect in the same way that active employees are treated. And I want us to be really clear that if we move to give the person in the drop plan both whatever benefit comes to the active employee and whatever benefit goes to retirees, that those are two separate kinds of things. If, for example, we gave active employees 0.5%, and no, let me back up. When you calculate your retirement benefit on a $60,000 salary, your benefit is $3,000 a month. And it will, no matter what happens as an active employee, that $3,000 will not change. It stays $3,000 unless and until all retirees get some kind of an increase. And we have done that in the last several years. We've given all retirees an increase. So when we look at what are we going to do, we need to keep those two things separate. That drop participant is not getting anything in that right-hand column at this point. They don't get any of that until they retire. If we continue to give 0.25% increase to retirees in years 1, 2, and 3 when you're in the plan, the drop participant, instead of having a $3,000 monthly benefit, will have a $3,023 benefit. In the same way that if you did not go into the drop plan, you stayed an active employee, and in the third year, your salary is now $60,905, we're going to calculate your benefit on $60,905, and it's going to be more than $3,023. So all of those kinds of things we need to be sure that we are looking at the same thing. I will tell you that time and time again in that presentation, Mr. Carr said, nothing changes for you as an active employee. You are treated as an active employee. And he said that more than once. And I just firmly believe that those people who went into the drop plan based on what they were told at that meeting at the Trade Center believed that they were going to maintain this. One of the things that has been said is that when you go into the drop plan, you stop paying the 4% for your pension. That's because you're not receiving any additional benefit. Your benefit stops right then at that time. And so we're not going to charge you for that if we're not increasing your benefit. So I don't know, at this point, I hope that I've not been able to read these two ordinance proposals yet, but I would hope that at this point and for our current budget processing, that those people who have made their decision based on that meeting at the Trade Center, that we give them the 0.5% increase. I will also tell you that 0.5% is not a lot of money. We're talking about $6,000 one year total for everybody in that group, and $8,000 total for everybody in that group. And if we decide not to give those folks in the drop plan that active increase, it's going to cost us a lot more than $8,000 in goodwill with our employees. And I think that we do have to take that into consideration when we're making our decision. And I believe that the $6,000 and the $8,000 that you've said that that it will cost us is well worth for our employees, making our employees feel good about their employment with the city. And it will be not only those people who are in the drop plan, but it will be from those people who are watching what's going on in the city. So that's, and I don't know what we're hoping, Mr. City Attorney, the result of this presentation. Are we looking for a proposal to do an ordinance, or are we at that point? Is that the purpose of this presentation?
Yes, and I hope that we are, because it's council decision as to who gets the COLA, and that's where the dilemma is right now, because the decision had been previously made based on our understanding of what council's directive was, is that the folks that are in the drop would not get the active COLA as well as the retirement COLA. So yes, we do need a decision.
Okay, then I would request from the city attorney that he bring an ordinance that gives the people who are in the drop plan both the COLA for active employees and for drop participants. And once we get that before us, then we can have the conversation about whether or not that's what we want to do. But I'm requesting that that be brought before us.
All right.
Thank you,
We
ma'am.
have Councilor Woodson.
Councilor Thomas, I just want to understand, make sure I'm clear. So you're requesting the ordinance so we can start the discussion on the matter before we vote, correct? Okay. Because I think when you, and not you yourself personally, but I think when we say that we think we'll do both, on the COLA, that will rise up a little flag with the employees that are not scheduled to retire. It would look like we're giving the individuals that choose the drop button option to have both of best worlds, and I'm concerned about that because the active employees who are not reaching their retirement time should have the exact same thing everyone should have across the board. So I'm not sure if I'm clear yet. So Rita, I need to have a meeting with you one-on-one to have a really good understanding before we vote on this ordinance. Because the way I'm understanding it, it doesn't seem fair to everybody. But I might be mistaken in the understanding. So I would appreciate if we can set something up so that we can go through it to make sure that I'm comprehending what I need to take that vote that will benefit not only the future retirees, but employees as well. Okay, thank you.
All right. I think that concludes the question and discussion for council at this time.
Okay, Madam Mayor, thank you. And next, we're going to have the pharmacy benefit manager update. HR Director Rita Hollowell.
Council, while doing the budget sessions, we came and provided a health care update in terms of some of the strategies that we have been working toward to shore up our health care plan. We're looking for cost efficiencies and those sorts of things. And we listed a number of initiatives that we have been working on. One of those was a change in our pharmacy benefit manager. A thorough review had been done of our pharmacy benefit plan in terms of the cost thereof. And one of the things we learned is that if we changed our pharmacy benefit manager and changed the way we paid our pharmacy benefit manager, it could net us savings of up to $1.1 million. And that's what we are here today to, we're ready to make that transition. Our benefit consultant has conducted an RFP, and they have come back with a recommendation for another pharmacy benefit manager that will take effect January 1 of our plan year. And what I asked our new benefit consultant, Shaw Hankins, I've asked them to come today and just provide an update on the new pharmacy benefit manager, just to tell you a little bit about them and to answer any questions that you have. We're expecting that the contract for the new pharmacy benefit manager will be on the council agenda for vote on September 22nd. But we wanted to provide you an update today to answer any questions that you have. And I'm going to ask